Hello T3 Seismic Studies students. So this video we are going to learn all about this guy right here. And I think you can see, oops, upside down, this guy right here, the Raspberry Shake seismograph. Hopefully each of you have one of these sensors at your school. If you don't, think about, that should be your number one thing, is to figure out where it is and how to get it installed, because this Raspberry Shake is going to be the kind of the core component of a lot of what you do this course and as part of the Shake Ambassador Club, right? So what is the Raspberry Shake, and really how do you install it? And that's the biggest question right now. Is you have one of these. We kind of learned how it worked in the last video, learning about seismic monitoring, right? You can see that there is this thing here. This cylinder is the geophone, this thing. Then there's the blue, blue little like board that sits on top. That is the digitizer that processes the data. And then the Raspberry Pi is the device that kind of, sends it out to the internet and allows you to connect. So right now it's the how do we get this thing installed? And, I'm here, you can see on the Raspberry Shake, manual page, and it says, online tutorial to help get your Raspberry Shake product up and running. Setup and installation is easy, mostly a plug and go or plug and play. And hopefully that's how it is for you too. So I'm going to show you what the components are and how you can get that done. So the first thing to do is, of course, find your Raspberry Shake, and hopefully you have a power supply and a Ethernet cable. Give me 1 second, I'll go find that power supply for you. All right. So the power supply might come in something that looks like this. Actually, let me just switch over here so you can see me bigger. There we go. Hello. So we can see this is kind of what the power supply probably looks like. It's a plug-in that has a USB-C end, and hopefully you have something like this. See this thing right here? This is a connector, an adapter that goes on to the end of the USB-C, and it's a micro USB, because notice that your Raspberry Shake has a micro USB power supply. And that is your power supply, and this is the way to plug it in. But wait, that's not the first thing to plug in normally. And a reminder, this is for first time, when you're installing a Raspberry Shake for the first time. You want to find this cable first, and this is your Ethernet cable. This is the cable. Maybe some of you recognize these plugins. They kind of look like telephone plugins from old telephones. They're actually Ethernet cables where you can plug in directly to the Raspberry Shake, and it's Raspberry Pi's Ethernet port. This is like wired internet, right? Instead of Wi-Fi, just wires directly to the internet. And then hopefully you can go find somewhere, either in your school, or it might actually be easier to set it up the first time in your house or in someone's house, someone that's part of the Shake Ambassador Club. Maybe you could meet at someone's house who has internet and has an internet router. Now the router is where your internet comes from, right? And I don't have one here to show you, I don't think, but it usually is like a box that has some antennas coming out, and there's a wire coming in, and they're usually Ethernet ports that say LAN out, and the ports out look something like this. And what you want to do is connect the wire from your Raspberry Shake to the port on your router, so then you have that connection there. Once you've done that, then you can plug in the power, right? Plug in power, wherever power is here, and then plug in, right? So then power goes, into the wall, obviously, and then things will start lighting up. And I can actually show you what that looks like because I have them right here. So you'll notice that things will start lighting up Once it's plugged in, you'll see that there are a couple little lights on the Raspberry Pi that should be turning on. There's a red and green light there. See that? Red and green light on the Raspberry Pi. And on top of the Shake, there's a blue light. Now, hopefully that light is solid. Because I'm lifting it up and kind of turning it around, sometimes it turns off, but these lights should be solid. Red and green light there and a blue light on top of the blue Raspberry Shake board. The other thing is if you are plugging in to your Ethernet, and I'll just kind of, well, I can put this down. If you're plugging into your Ethernet, you should check to see if there are little green and yellow lights flashing underneath here. So they'll be flashing right underneath. You can actually see there's a couple little LEDs. Those should be flashing. That means that data is transferring through there. And that's really good because it means that there's connection. Your Raspberry Shake is now connected to the network somehow, right? And hopefully, once you've done that, then trying to make sure this is gonna work. Once you've done that, and you've gotten some flashing happening there, right? You can go and open up a browser on a separate computer that is connected to the same network. So if you're at home, this is really easy because you probably have one Wi-Fi network at home or at one of your friends' houses, and that one Wi-Fi network maybe has a name, and then it has a password, and easy. Once you can plug the Raspberry Shake directly into that router where the Wi-Fi comes from, and then from there you can go on to a network, and now I'll screen record again. See this? You go on to a new tab in your browser and say, okay, I'm going to type in something. This is important. rs.local /. And what that will do is when your Raspberry Shake is plugged in and connected to your network, it actually creates its own locally hosted website that's just on the local area network that it is. It's a local web server. And when you press enter here, hopefully it will take you to something like this, right? This is the Raspberry Shake's configuration page. And if you've gotten here, like if you've got here to this section, great job. So pause and congratulate yourself. If you're doing this at school, you can try to do the same thing where you plug it into an Ethernet port that's at your school. Sometimes there's Ethernet that comes from a teacher's phone. You could try that. You could also try, trying to find you could try to find a wall port that is live. And how there are lots of little holes around the wall that's like an Ethernet port? You can try messing around with those. I would ask your local school information, IT specialist or, system administrator, your network administrator for help on that, and just to make sure that they're comfortable with that. And they have a lot of experience where they can help you too. But if you're doing it at home, it should be pretty straightforward. Now, you see here, there's some information. It tells us the model. I have here RS1D, the Raspberry Pi, system status is running, and then it tells me something that's kind of nice to have, which is the local IP address. Right now, it says it's, the Wi-Fi, because I have this connected up to be connected to Wi-Fi. Yours will probably be a Ethernet or wired internet IP, address. So write that down. You should take that and maybe get a screenshot of it, Command 4, or whatever. If you're on Windows, do a little screenshot of that. That way you know what that IP address is, and you can try to connect to it later. Now, remind you, this IP address will change if it's on a different network, and it could also change all by itself over time. So, be aware of that, but it's just good to know it offhand. This is also really good to know is your MAC address. And there might be two. There might be a Wi-Fi MAC address and an Ethernet MAC address. Try to get, either one of those, and that will help your your IT administrator person, make sure that at your school it gets the checkbox. Okay, so you can take a screenshot. You can Control C, copy and paste in a Google Doc or somewhere. I could just paste it right there for now. So here we are. So we also say that right now the data producer is already on, the data consumer off, data forwarding is on, and it already has a latitude and longitude set. That's because I've gone in and actually set it before, but if you haven't, if this is your first time, then you're gonna have to go into settings and here in general and set it up. So it says, did you receive your geophone with the Raspberry Shake? Yes, you did, because it came with it, right? How will you use your Shake? I usually choose education, because that's what we're doing. Then you can choose choose one person in your group, or if you want to, you can choose your teacher or your coordinator, local person. But maybe you can choose whoever. This can be changed. It's really easy to change, so don't worry about it if you just want to put in one person's email and name at first. And then you go down and say, all right, now we get to choose your location. So I'm here in Anchorage, right? And I'm very specific on where exactly my house is and even where in the building it is. Because what this will do is it will help the seismic network detect earthquakes. And it's really important that you have really specific location information for the sensor, so then it can detect the earthquakes the right way. And when you choose the site, it might say, oh, wait, error. They couldn't find the altitude because for some reason this system doesn't know the altitude of Alaska. So you could either kind of guess if you know your school's altitude, or you could you can go and type in, what is the altitude of Wrangell or wherever you're installing this, and kind of put in a guess. It's in meters, right? So remember that. And then you say what floor the instrument is on, how many floors in the building. So what it wants you to do actually, oftentimes, if it's just one floor, like if your school just has one floor, then it wants you to put 0 as the floor that it's on, and then 1 as total floors. So kind of a weird system, but that's what it wants you to do. If there are two floors, then put 2, and then if your instrument's on the first floor, then put 1, or no, yeah, then put 1, or if it's on the first floor, you can actually put 0, right? So it's kind of a confusing thing, but since I have 2 floors and mine is on the second story-ish, I'm gonna have 1. All right, so now that because total floors includes my basement, which is a -1, I guess. Anyway, this is kind of a confusing thing, but I'll put 0 because 0 is my ground floor. So once you do that, then you save and restart, and that will just save that data. The other thing to do is come over here to this data tab and click forward data. Once you forward data, you have to say save and restart. And what that will do is it will let it so that you connect your sensor to our favorite place, which is the station view and data view map. So now if I zoom into Anchorage, I might be able to see my sensor here, which so maybe it takes a second to load. So it might not load immediately. It might take a few minutes or maybe even a day or two. So if you've completed this and it's still not working, oops, I think I was over here actually. Once you completed this, saved and restarted, and it doesn't go immediately, that's okay. The other thing you can do is look at Ethernet settings. You want to enable a static IP address. You talk to your system administrator about this, your local, school IT person, because they can help. Maybe you want to do this, maybe you don't want to do this. You can also connect it to Wi-Fi, but I'd recommend leaving it connected to Ethernet if possible. If not possible, then that's okay. And then we'll learn more about these other things later on. And with that, I think that's our installation tips. Now, some other installation tips are, if you think about it, like where you want to install one of these things, think about it. Is it going to be better to install it, if you want to detect earthquakes and detect like different things around think it's better to try to detect something that's in, or try to install this sensor in a, busy gym, or underneath a desk in a classroom, or in a supply closet that isn't, used very much, right? Well, you definitely hear more noise, right? You'd have better, if you wanted to, if your research or what you wanted to do was hear all of the different things going on during the day in your school, maybe it would be better to have it in a classroom. You could tell, you could see what time students arrived and if there was students jumping up and down and, that sort of thing. But if you want to detect earthquakes or, landslides or other things that are, natural events that happen farther away from your school, you do want to have it in the quietest, and I say like quietest because, it's hard to get really quiet when you're in school, but the quietest place possible. And shoot, as Shake Ambassador Club members, maybe a project sometime in the future could be thinking about installing the sensor in in a kind of semi-professional way, which could even be, digging a hole and creating a seismic vault, which is what a lot of the sensors are put in, which is, like digging a hole and pouring some cement and making like a vault that's waterproof, and you can kind of put it underground and get really, really sensitive information. But that's in the future. Right now, that was your tutorial on how to install one of those guys. Again, the first steps are plug the sensor into an Ethernet, to a network. And again, I'll just show you guys, internet router or Wi-Fi router, probably looks something like this. Probably looks something like this or like this. And in your house, there's going to be, or maybe in your school, but most likely in your house, there's going to be one of these with, one plug that's going in, and that's the internet into this router thing. And then all these orange ones are going out, and you would plug your Raspberry Shake into one of these. And you can actually get longer Ethernet cables if you, the one that comes with the Raspberry Shake that hopefully all of you have is about, this long. I think this is a 6-foot cable. If you want to bring it even longer, you can ask your school if, your school's system administrator, IT person, if they have a longer Ethernet cable, and you could, route the cable, of course, out of the way, right? Don't like put it in the middle of the floor, but you could route it to be in a quieter place. All of these installation things are up to you. Really, the goal is, and I want everyone to have this by the end of this month, by the end of October, definitely, if not sooner, is to have your Raspberry Shake installed and visible on this map. So right now I look around, I see Heidelberg down here has theirs installed. I don't see, any in Sitka yet or in Wrangell over here, but hopefully those will come up soon. Oh, look, I see one in Cordova. Great job, Cordova. Seward, not quite. I know that they've had it in the past, but they may need to get another Ethernet cable. There's one in Dillingham and Quinnahock. In Anchorage, there's a whole bunch. In Fairbanks. And then, of course, we're also waiting on Bethel, Chivac, and then up here, in Brevig and Shishba. That'll happen pretty soon. All right, great job, everyone. Once you get here, explore. It's really exciting once you get this connected up. So I'm going to call that video there. Let me know if you have any questions. Discord, anytime, happy to help. All right, great job, everyone. Stay shaken. Bye.